Hello. Thank you for the opportunity to present HR metrics that will improve our organizational productivity and reach our goals. Today, I will review the proposed metrics, their use cases, and how to execute them for the organization. The first metric I recommend for the organization to track is absenteeism rate and total absenteeism cost. The absenteeism rate is the percentage of scheduled workdays that employees are absent. Total absenteeism cost is the combined expense of wages, lost productivity, and replacement costs incurred for each day an employee is absent. These metrics are important to track because the organization can absorb these costs over time. According to a study of 465 companies, excluding planned absences, the total direct and indirect cost of absenteeism consumed 9% of payroll. Another survey showed that the total cost of planned and unplanned absences range from 20.9% to 22.1% of payroll in the United States. As a startup, it is important that we monitor and proactively reduce these costs. Next, I will review the use cases for these metrics. The first is measuring lost output. By understanding how absenteeism affects productivity, we will ultimately understand how it is impacting the company's financial performance. These metrics can also be used to uncover workplace challenges. By observing trends in absenteeism, you will be able to identify if a team is disengaged or experiencing burnout. To calculate absenteeism, you will need HR records on the number of days each employee was absent. Using that information, you can use the absenteeism rate equation shown here to get the overall absenteeism rate. In order to calculate total cost of absenteeism, you will need to get salary data to identify the wage cost per day and the lost productivity cost per day. You can use that information to calculate the total cost of absenteeism. I also recommend tracking turnover rate and the total cost of turnover. Turnover rate is the percentage of employees who leave an organization during a specific period. Total cost of turnover is the combined expense of separation, recruitment, training, and lost productivity incurred each time an employee leaves the organization. It is important to track these metrics because turnovers can be costly. According to the Journal of Accountancy, the turnover cost per person ranges from 93% to 200% of an exiting employee's salary, depending on the employee. Another study found that the fully loaded cost of turnover can easily cost 150% or more of the exiting person's salary. Due to these costs, one of the use cases of turnover is budget forecasting. You can use turnover data to include the turnover cost in the organization's budget. You can also use this data to create retention strategies. Using trends in turnover data, you can identify roles and areas that are at high risk of turnover, then create targeted interventions to reduce turnover in that area. This is very important as we are a smaller startup that needs to retain organizational knowledge as much as possible to succeed in the marketplace. To calculate turnover, you will need HR data on the number of employee exits and average number of employees. Total cost of turnover requires calculating the cost of separating an employee, replacing the employee, training costs for the new employee, and the performance difference between a new employee and an experienced employee. The last metric I recommend is employee attitudes. Employee attitudes are measurable evaluations of work-related experiences, including employee satisfaction, commitment, and engagement. I recommend the organization tracks this metric because it directly impacts the organization's financial performance. According to a multi-year study, researchers found that employee satisfaction correlated with stronger organizational financial performance. Another study found that there was a relationship between unit-level employee engagement and key outcomes like profit, productivity, employer retention, and customer loyalty. As a growing company, we want to make sure that our employees are committed, engaged, and satisfied so we can reach our organizational goals. Next, I will cover a few use cases for employee attitude data. Employee attitude data can be used to inform employee programs. The attitude data will uncover specific areas for improvement. Based on these improvement areas, you can tailor employee programs to improve those areas. The data is also helpful for reporting to potential investors. Employee attitude surveys often demonstrate how well an organization will perform and recruit future talent. This is particularly important as the organization is establishing itself as a leader in our field. The primary implementation method for employee attitudes are surveys. There are two types of surveys that we can use in order to measure employee attitudes. The first is an annual survey that will target the 3 core dimensions I mentioned of employee attitudes, which include satisfaction, commitment, and engagement. A pulse survey is a small survey that you can do more often throughout the year that will quickly assess employee attitudes. Thank you again for the opportunity to share my recommendations. By incorporating these HR metrics into our organization, we can strengthen our financial performance, talent investments, and external reputation and brand. Thank you.